Alright, so today we're diving deeper into Crimson Desert, but this time it's all about the open world. The more I see of this game, the more I think its success is going to depend on Pywell itself. Because yeah, the combat looks crazy. I mean, we've already talked about Cliff suplexing grown men in armor, but combat alone doesn't carry an open world RPG. The world has to matter. Pywell looks huge and layered. This isn't just empty fields stitched together with quest markers. You've got vast wilderness stretching to the horizon with dense forests, frozen mountain regions, and then full-on cities that actually look inhabited. It's not just full of NPC mannequins waiting for dialogue prompts, but places with actual tension, with factions, and conflict. A little bit of background now. We already know that we play as Cliff, part of a faction called the Greymanes. They're known for keeping peace and protecting their homelands. Basically, they're the good guys, but once we enter the story, that peace is already gone. Their leader is dead, and the rivals are moving in. I'm not sure if it'll dive deeper into that classic revenge trope, or if it will rise above that. I just hope it's got a better story than Dragon's Dogma 2, cause that ending was kinda shitty, if you ask me. By the looks of it, your journey starts with reuniting the surviving Greymanes and reclaiming your homeland. I've always liked this kind of setup because it gives your exploration a purpose. You know, the great hero's journey. You're not just running from point A to point B, mindlessly following quest markers, you're restoring territories and rebuilding a faction. I hope this changes how the world feels. Maybe locations will adapt and change depending on the choices you make. Pywell itself is divided into 5 major regions. Each one looks visually distinct with different climates, architecture, and enemies. And what stands out to me is how faction-driven everything seems. Some factions are friendly, they'll give you missions, trade with you, maybe even support your cause. Others, not so much. Some are actively occupying territory, blockading towns, even laying siege to strongholds. And when you deal with them, the world actually reacts. There's an example shown where a Roothold is under siege. You defeat the invading forces, and the area gets restored to its rightful faction. Travel then becomes safer and the environment shifts. Even NPCs change, hopefully with some new items or quests. Very rarely have I seen it done well. Because one of the biggest problems in modern open world games is that nothing really tends to stick. You clear an area, and 5 minutes later it's like nothing happened. If Crimson Desert commits to meaningful, persistent world changes, that'll be a big win. And well, it's not just war and politics. Exploration looks like a major focus. And when they say exploration, they actually seem to mean it. You can climb, glide, ride horseback, and eventually, this part's kind of insane, you get access to a missile-firing mech and a dragon. Yes, a dragon. This game goes from grounded medieval warfare to they fly now. Yep, they fly now.
Fly now? They fly now!
And now, movement in an open world is everything. If traversal feels bad, the whole game feels slow. But here, Cliff can climb terrain naturally. He can also glide across some large distances, scale vertical spaces without looking too janky. It reminds me a bit of Breath of the Wild in terms of physical freedom, but way more combat heavy and cinematic. Now let's talk about the Abyss, because this is where the fantasy part kicks in hard. The Abyss is this mysterious realm above Pywell, and fragments of it are literally falling into the world. These fragments aren't just collectibles, they affect the balance of the world itself, and factions are trying to exploit them. Which adds another layer to the whole game. Territory is one thing, alien superpowers are another, and apparently, you'll eventually venture into the Abyss itself, which opens the door for completely different environments, mechanics, maybe even puzzle-focused areas. That's something I'm watching closely. I hope it's not just a reskinned dungeon and actually has its own feel and mechanics. Something like that could really set itself apart from other games in the genre. Now here's something else I appreciate. Not every quest looks like a massive battlefield. Some are large-scale, reclaiming fortresses, fighting commanders, breaking sieges. Others are smaller, helping residents, delivering goods, escorting NPCs, and normally I'd roll my eyes at, these NPC escort, fetch quests, etc. But if the world feels alive enough, even smaller tasks can feel meaningful as long as they at least have some fun story elements. Kind of what The Witcher 3 did with some of its side quests. Factions also tie into progression. Liberating areas can unlock merchants, resources like lumber and stone, and materials needed to rebuild the Greymane's home. So, exploration feeds progression, progression feeds story. That loop is important. And then there are artifacts. We talked about these a bit in our previous video. These seem to be powerful items tied to unlocking and upgrading skills. Some are earned through combat, while others are hidden off the beaten path. That tells me exploration is incentivized. You're not just exploring for screenshots, you're exploring for power. Fast travel also appears to be tied to discovering traces of the abyss, something that encourages you to actually travel and discover first, instead of immediately teleporting everywhere. Another interesting detail: 2 additional playable characters eventually join your journey. Once unlocked, you can freely explore Pywell as them. Each character has unique combat styles and weapons, letting you experience the world through different mechanics. This could keep the open world feeling pretty fresh. Enemy variety also looks promising. We're not just fighting generic soldiers, there are trained warriors, sorcerers, beasts, mechanical enemies, and whatever the fuck are those things you see lurking inside the abyss. If the AI holds up, the combat encounters in the open world could feel dynamic instead of repetitive. And then there are puzzles. Along the way, you'll find ancient mechanisms inside of forgotten ruins with all kinds of environmental challenges, covered in particle effects and all that fancy stuff. This is something a lot of combat-focused RPGs tend to neglect. I do hope Crimson Desert can balance the combat intensity with these intricate puzzles without bogging down the gameplay. Now, here's a real question. Is this world actually dense, or is it all just fluff and trees? Because we've seen beautiful open worlds that feel empty after 5 hours. The difference comes down to what we can actually interact with. How often do you find something meaningful? How often does the world respond to you? How often does exploration surprise you? Recently, I've been playing through Tainted Grail. At one point while I was exploring, I found this troll, killed him, then realized he was protecting a hatch on the floor. You open the hatch and find this old dude. If you talk to him, he'll want you to catch a special kind of fish. The reward? A spell that turns enemies into cheese. I mean, it's such a dumb spell, but a really good way to flesh out your world and make you want to engage in side quests. From what we've seen, Pywell seems designed around discovery. Hidden treasures scattered throughout the map, dynamic conflicts that seem to change depending on the factions you help or hinder. There's a lot going on, but execution is everything. If they nail the balance between story urgency and open freedom, if faction changes actually persist, if traversal feels smooth, if exploration consistently rewards curiosity, then Crimson Desert could end up being one of the stronger open world RPGs in recent years. For me, it's not really just the scale, it's the sense that the world isn't static. Nothing better than a fractured world on the edge of collapse, and you're stepping right into that chaos. So yeah, the combat looks brutal, but Pywell, that'll be the real test. Because if the world works, everything else elevates with it. So, on that note, let me know what you think. Does this open world look promising to you? Or are you cautiously optimistic like me? And if you enjoyed this breakdown, stick around. I'll be sure to cover some more of Crimson Desert as it gets closer to releasing. As always, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Have a great one.